All right, what do you do with a person who abuses their position of authority? An elemental question in the history of human government and human affairs, a question our country has been confronting persistently since long before Donald Trump, but even more insistently during his presidency and its aftermath. Today, as we digest new revelations about the scope of the abuse of power that occurred under the former president, we are also seeing an answer to that very question, and it comes from Republicans. Not the ones in the nation's capital, not the ones associated with the exiled chieftain of Mar-a-Lago. Rather, it comes from the Republican Party in the state of Oregon. State lawmakers there confronted the same question that we are now confronting as a society, the same one that Democrats and Republicans alike confronted at the nation's capital on January 6th, how to deal with a person who has egregiously abused their power, a person who has transgressed. In this case, it was one of their own, Republican State Representative Mike Nearman, who was caught on surveillance video opening the door of the Capitol to let in a mob last December. That mob, which was allegedly upset about coronavirus restrictions in the state, then managed to overcome officers and invade the building. Some of them carried guns and bear spray and called for the arrest of Governor Kate Brown. And then another video emerged from just a few days before the mob reached the Capitol, showing Mike Nearman explaining how he would let protesters into the building.
We're talking about setting up Operation Hall Pass, which I don't know anything about, and if you accuse me of knowing something about it, I'll deny it, but there would be some person's cell phone, which might be 971, but that was just random numbers that I spewed up. That's not anybody's actual cell phone. And if you say, I'm at the west entrance during the session and text to that number there, that somebody might exit that door while you're standing there. But I don't know anything about that. I don't have anything to do with that. And if I did, I wouldn't say that I did.
Yesterday, Mike Nearman faced a vote on expelling him from the Oregon legislature. And I have to say, given the politics of the Republican Party right now, I didn't know which way the vote was going to go. Just ahead of the vote, Nearman defended himself, doing his best Tucker Carlson impression.
You're considering expelling a member for the first time in history because he thinks that people should have access to their capital, especially during session. After this session, we're all going to go out to dinner or stop at the grocery store, or maybe tomorrow we'll shop and buy clothes or get our oil changed, because all these places are open, but not this building.
Oh, you're persecuting me because I just want people to be in the Capitol. That ridiculous excuse didn't work. The resolution to expel him passed 59-1, with only Nearman voting to save himself. He was formally expelled from the Oregon legislature. And that is an example of tangible accountability for a wild transgression. And I bring you this story tonight because it's noteworthy and newsworthy, but also because, boy, is it rare, huh? You probably have to go all the way back to Richard Nixon to find another U.S. president who abused his authority at the scope and scale of Donald Trump. And Richard Nixon actually did face some accountability. He was forced to resign from office after the House Judiciary Committee adopted 3 articles of impeachment against him. And even though President Gerald Ford pardoned him in a wildly unpopular move, many people in Richard Nixon's orbit were held accountable for their actions. All of these people were prosecuted and served time in the wake of the Watergate scandal. Look at that. The list includes the Watergate burglars, Nixon's White House counsel and personal attorney, his chief of staff, even his attorney general, John Mitchell.
Given the circumstances, Mitchell was in a relatively good mood as he arrived at the prison. All Mitchell said was, "It's nice to be back in Alabama." He is assured of staying in Alabama at least 20 months. That's how long it will be before he's eligible for parole from his sentence of from 2.5 to 8 years. During the time he is here, in this minimum security prison, officials say Mitchell will be treated the same as any other prisoner. So, John Mitchell, former U.S. Attorney General, is wearing prison clothes now.
Now, the reckoning and the accountability didn't stop there, okay? Across the nation, from legislators in Congress to the media to regular everyday citizens, the civic spirit of the time was that what happened in the Nixon presidency was so horrifying and aberrant, it must be a symptom of a broken system, and that system had to be reformed and fixed lest it happen again. And so an incredible wave of reform began. There was the Church Committee, led by Democratic Senator Frank Church of Idaho, that looked into the secretive doings at CIA, NSA, and FBI and found the agencies were spying on Americans and running roughshod over the law all over the world and at home. In 1974, we saw the birth of modern campaign finance reforms after so much of the Watergate scandal involved what were essentially slush funds from shady donors being moved back and forth. In 1978, President Jimmy Carter signed a new law limiting electronic surveillance, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA. You probably heard about that. All of this, the entire structure of regulation and oversight for all this was erected to make sure we could not have another Richard Nixon. And in the wake of more revelations about the Trump presidency, it's hard to say it's held firm. We clearly need another round of reform. We need more accountability for those who have done wrong, those who have transgressed and have abused their authority. And we also need to protect our government against future would-be Donald Trumps, including this Donald Trump. That's what the Boston Globe editorial board is calling for this week in a new 6-part series about preserving our democracy called Future-Proofing the Presidency. It makes a really strong case for the importance of indicting and prosecuting Donald Trump for his conduct in office, arguing that allowing him to go unpunished would set a far more dangerous precedent than having Trump stand trial. To reform the presidency so that the last 4 years are never repeated, the country must go beyond passing laws. It must make clear through its actions no person, not even the president, is above them. This comes in the wake of the New York Times report yesterday revealing that prosecutors in the Trump Justice Department subpoenaed Apple for data from the accounts of at least 2 Democrats on the House Intelligence Committee, aides and family members. One was a minor. All told, the records of at least a dozen people tied to the committee were seized in 2017 and early 2018, including those of Representative Adam Schiff and Representative Eric Swalwell of California, who said in an interview Thursday night he had also been notified his data had been subpoenaed. We know that Trump DOJ also secretly seized phone records of reporters at the New York Times, CNN, and the Washington Post, imposed a gag order on CNN and the Times. When you put all this together, Adam Schiff, Eric Swalwell, Intel committee members, staffers, presumably on the Democratic side, family members, a minor, the New York Times, CNN, the Washington Post, well, it reads like an enemies list, right? Richard Nixon notoriously also kept a list of enemies and used the government to spy on them. Now, let's be clear. The Trump administration, as far as we know from the reporting we have so far, appears to have gone through the quote-unquote proper channels, which is to say the DOJ issued legal subpoenas. He didn't have like his henchmen breaking into their therapist's office like, Donald Trump did. We know how Donald Trump and the people that followed him behave, which is to say, even if they went through the proper channels, this is almost certainly exactly what it looks like. And now, as we consider this revelation and the perilous state of American democracy, consider that there has been neither accountability nor reform for any of the characters in this drama. And for obvious reasons, it cannot stand. Cannot go on like this. The abuses were so great, the threat to the country's rule of law and to democratic self-government so severe, that to let it go unrecognized and unreckoned with will bring some kind of cataclysm. It's honestly just a question of when. It is the job now of everyone in power, Democrats, Republicans alike, though I don't have much faith, to get to the bottom of what happened in toto, to hold people to account across the various areas of wrongdoing and implement the reforms needed to make sure it does not happen again.